to work with guys like Bob Taylor. I'm walking around the parking lot, and I hear this, Rich, and who's calling me? It's Bob Taylor. And I'm going, what do you want? And he goes, someone just told me that you bought your wife a Chevy Volt for her birthday. And I said, yeah. He goes, you gotta tell me all about it. I'm interested in the technology. And I'm going, dude, you drive a Tesla. And he goes, hey, don't dude me. And me, because that's what Bob is all about. Bob is all about technology. I don't know how I got going there.
Start as soon as Rich is done tuning. That could be tomorrow morning sometime.
Hey.
Obviously, we're going to start talking about the new V-class bracing guitars. Rave reviews on the internet. Everybody at the NAMM show kind of flipped their lid, wouldn't you say?
That's why I'm wearing my hat, because I don't have my lid anymore.
So, reading a lot of the online articles, everybody describing it as a historic change in our industry. When you think of the guitar itself, from back 1800s with the Martin family.
Hey, you're getting into my presentation.
Oh, I was killing time.
No,
so three nuns walk into a bar.
Yeah, right. Okay. Wow. Thank you all for coming. This is great. And I'm starting, oh my gosh, right on time. My watch was made in Italy. It's close enough. So my name is Rich. I'm with Taylor Guitars, like most of you know. I've been with Taylor for 5 years. Prior to that, I was with that company that begins with a G and ends in a sun. Thank you.
Okay.
Do I need to do the math here for you? Let's see, been a guitar player for 52 years, member of the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and winner of Guitar Center's King of the Blues 3 years in a row. So, been around guitars for a little while, feeling very blessed to work for Taylor. What a great company. And boy, have we got some exciting things to talk about tonight. And, we came out with the Academy series, and it was so exciting. It was so neat that Andy had come up with this method of designing a guitar that didn't have any of the things that you don't need and everything that you do need. So what do you don't need binding, you don't need this, you don't need that to have a great guitar. What you do need is a real playable neck. You need something that sounds really good. You need something that wants to make you pick it up. By calling them the Academy series, we truly were after the beginning guitar player, whether they were a student, young, or 50, 60, 70 years old that just wanted to play guitar. And we made the most important size, the Dreadnought, which is the battleship guitar. We made the smaller size Concert, and we also did a nylon string. Well, a really interesting thing happened in that, you just lay it down there and I'll get to it in a minute. I promise I won't trip on it much. And it was so exciting, and it began to be so popular that we had a problem. And the problem was we couldn't build enough. So we put a hiatus on the nylon string because we had to make a decision somewhere. And so this year, in 2018, we've brought the nylon back. So it's the reintroduction of the nylon string guitar. So the great thing about this particular nylon string that we do with the Academy, and what's different is that this is actually a Lutz spruce top. And for those of you that follow, is my voice too loud for you? Is everything okay? All right. My wife would say, if you can hear him, it's too loud. But we did a Lutz top, and for those of you that follow Taylor guitars, you know that the Lutz top is on the 700 series. So it's on a series that's way up there, but we put it on this nylon. And this is also a 12th fret nylon, so it meets the body at the 12th fret. But because it's a nylon string, you have to have a 25.5-inch scale because that's where nylon works. But the nylon strings, if you're listening to a lot of music out there, a lot of people are using it just as a different voice in their recordings and stuff. So whether you are a strummer of a, you don't have to be the, you have to. You don't have to be able to play flamenco guitar player. You don't have to do that. It's just great if you're a beginning player. Nylon is so easy on your fingers. I asked Mo to bring in our 400 series guitar, and the reason is because we've done something a little bit different this year with the Rosewood version. As some of you know, we had a 400 series and it was oven call back and sides. And we decided last year to do a rosewood version as well as the oven call. And a lot of people go, I don't get it. If 400 is oven call. It's like, no, a 400 has this binding and these inlays and this and that and the other thing. And we just really felt that we needed to have a rosewood guitar in a price point, in that mid-2000 price point. So we decided to do it in the 400 series. So keeping the appointments the same, just giving the option. Well, like the old movie said, a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. What ended up happening was CITES and the rosewood pricing got a little wonky. So in order to keep rosewood in the 400 series, well, we had to raise the price a little bit. And it was like, man, we didn't want to have to do that because we really wanted to keep it at that price. So we go, okay, so there's no way around it. We have to bring the price up a little bit. We have to cover, we have to stay fluid. We have to stay in the black. So what we did was, on the 400 series only, we added a Renaissance inlay to it. And normally this would be a $380, I think, something, $350 upcharge if we did this in a custom. So we said, well, let's just put the Renaissance in the 400 rosewood only to help offset that additional rosewood. So so that's what we did for 2018 with the 400. And let's see, Mo, you tuned to this, right? So yeah, sounds perfect. Is he coming at me yet? A wonderful sounding rosewood guitar, really good low end, and nice bright high end, because as we all know, rosewood is the perfect wood, back and sides wood to use if you're a singer, because your voice is mid-range, and now you got a low and you've got a high and you've got a three-way speaker, and away you go, and you're a singles act. Great. The great and wonderful thing about Taylor 12 strings is just the amazing ease at which you can play our 12 strings. And there's a tremendous statistic that's out, and it's backed up by a company called Music Track, MI Sales Track, excuse me, and it tracks sales of guitars, of musical instruments, from a dealer to a consumer. And don't ask me how they do it, but they do it, and it's very scientific and it's very accurate. But when Taylor came out with their Taylor 150E, which is our $799 12 string, it actually moved the national market. It actually, 12 string sales were doing this, they were, and all of a sudden the 150E came out and it went, and it moved the whole market. And it turned out that in a certain period of time, in the end of 2016 to mid-2017, about a 9-month stretch, 92% of every single 12-string guitar sold in the United States was a Taylor 150E. So imagine that you're a manufacturer and you have 92% of the market. That'd make your mama buy a new pair of shoes, won't it? Then came the most amazing movement of all, and it was in a guitar called the 562 CE. And the 562 CE was an all mahogany guitar that you could either get all mahogany or with a cedar top. And so you had just one of the most amazing guitars, and it was a 12 fret model and a 12 string. So our smallest body shape in a 12 fret 12 string. And it absolutely set the world on fire for 12 strings. It's just a whole new love affair came. And when we saw that, we did an amazing promotion during Christmas time. It comes out. So we decide, since the 12 strings were so cool and the 562 set the world on fire, that for the holidays, we came up with the 12 days of 12 strings. And if you saw any of the ads for it, it was so fun, that we did, and a 562 CE, and things like that. It was really a cool promotion. Sold a lot of 12 strings. So then we said, okay, 2018, how can we top a 562? Well, you really can't top it. You can do things that are really neat and fun. And we knew that we really kind of wanted to come out with one that was a little bit more budget friendly. But you don't want to make it so budget friendly that you take away the beauty of the 562. So we came out with a 362. So it's our 300 series 12 fret 12 string concert style. Okay, so what's the difference? Well, it's not shiny, it's not as pretty. And of course, that's in the eye of the beholder. Some people will say, I like satin. You go, oh, so it's all right. I like gloss. You like satin. tomato, tomato. It's all good. But you have a guitar that he did a good job with the smell. What an amazing sounding 12-string. And the thing that I normally always do with a 12-string, and those who've been to my roadshow when I'm playing, now, you people that have seen me at a roadshow, was I playing or was I emceeing? Emceeing. So you haven't been lucky? No. So normally, if my first thing with a 12-string that I do is if I can play the intro to Hotel California without a capo, in pitch, then I know I've got a pretty darn good 12-string that holds its tuning as well as the playability. And normally I practice this before a roadshow, but we were cutting videos. So this is really totally cold and off the cuff, but let's see if we can pull it off here. Except for that last note. You tuned that A string. It was low. It wasn't. We came out with a slide. It's an ebony slide. And so one day, one of our guys, David Judd, was out there, and I know that all you people read about Bob, and you understand what kind of a guy that I work for, and he's truly amazing. He said something to me one time that has stuck with me for a long time, and I'll never forget it. And it was, what was it again? Your wealth is in your waist. So think about it. Every company's wealth is in its waist. He doesn't like to throw anything away. If you've anybody been to the factory for the tour? How big is the dumpster? It's like this big. And people go through it and they go, oh, I'll take that piece of wood home. And he goes, perfect, take it home, take it home, take it home. All right? We won awards for not throwing things away. So we meaning Bob and David Judd and some other people, were in Africa. And David Judd finds this piece of ebony on the ground. And it came from when we were putting the fingerboards together. We had to cut these pieces off and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he looks at this piece of wood, and he goes, I'll be right back. And he goes away, and he comes back, and he made a slide out of the piece of waste that was down. He shows it to Bob. He goes, hey, Bob, look what I made. I made an ebony slide, solid ebony slide. And Bob goes, do you think we can make those, like, really make those? And he goes, yeah, well, what do they sound like? Well, who plays slide? Anybody? Okay. So I'm not the greatest slide player, but I do play slide, and I have glass slides, I have brass slides, I have steel slides, I have the Corseiden bottles. I've got all these different slides, and this is a whole different sort of a tone because it's a warmer tone, and it doesn't sustain quite as much as the other ones do, which is good because it gives time for you to get to your next note. It's kind of like a maple guitar. I'm a real fan of maple guitars, for those of you that don't already know that. Most all of my guitars are maple. And I have others, yes, but my go-to guitars are maple. And so when you do a note like a... Is this thing on? It's
on.
Yeah. Might want to plug it in.
Yeah. So I urge you to try them out, and so you So it's quiet, it's a different voice, it's warm, and they're like, what, $19.99 or something like that for a solid ebony slide. So pretty cool. So that's just one more thing that we came out with. And what's great about it, like I said, your wealth is in your waist. Bob, what we're doing is all of the money from those slides is going to a new water, a whole water, what do you call it? To feed the whole village. So he's going to, by selling these slides, he's going to put in a whole water system for the village in Cameroon. If you want to talk to Bob for 3 minutes, talk about guitars. If you want to talk to Bob for 5 minutes, talk about something in the technology field of a new machine, and that might even buy you 10 minutes. You want him for an hour? Ask him what he's doing in Africa and in Washington and in all these places where we're doing wood conservation. So that's the kind of guy that I work for. So it's amazing. All right, I know what you're waiting for, so let's get to it. V-brace. And what is this thing? What is this V-brace all about? You know, guitars have been being built pretty much the same way for about 150-ish years or so. And the one interesting thing about guitars is that the more and more you get into guitars, the more and more you understand that there's a compromise. Anytime you build a guitar, there's a compromise. Some of the interesting things that I've heard about guitar building and you know how to build a great sounding guitar is that some people say you want to build a guitar just on the brink that it blows up. And you laugh about it, or I do. And you go, what the heck are you talking about? Well, you know, the first guitar that Andy Powers built, he was 7 years old. And he built like a small little guitar. His dad was a woodworker, so he had a wood shop all the time he grew up. And so he tells the story about building this what do they call it, a GSO, a guitar-shaped object, right? And so he builds this thing, and he grabs strings from because his dad was a guitar player, grabs strings, puts it on, the guitar lasts about a total of 26 seconds, and it absolutely explodes, right? And he tells a story, and it's so funny to hear him tell the story. And when he told me, when we first met, we were just getting to know each other, and I said, that must have been just a horrible experience for you. And he goes, are you kidding? I was 7 years old and I built something that blew up. Are you kidding me? It was great! You know? So he goes, and that's when I first started learning about things like bracing and how you have to counteract the pressure of the strings. So again, a lot of this is going to be repeat for those of you who have seen my roadshow when we talk about the grand orchestra and things like that. But the fact of the matter is that you have to provide just enough strength and bracing in order for the guitar not to fall apart and for the strings to stay exactly where they're supposed to stay. And I used to know the exact number of what the pressure is of 6 strings tuned to A440 pitch against an instrument, because when you think about it, you know, you've got this instrument, you've got this hollow box of wood that's, you know, yay thick, and these strings are on here, and all this thing wants to do is pull this thing up so it'll fold, right? That's all it wants to do. So you have to have this bracing in here that holds it all together. And I could talk to you honestly for a couple of hours, I won't, Laura, about how the neck, how Bob designed the neck of the guitar to counteract a lot of that, and then how the bracing became the secondary portion and why our guitars play so good. Because I think all of you would agree that, I think all of you would agree that there's no guitar that plays like a Taylor, an acoustic guitar, right? And Bob, if he was behind me, and we've done shows together, if you were to say to him, Bob, I think you build the best sounding guitars that I've ever heard, he'd probably disagree with you. He'd say, no, but I do build the best playing guitar. Because he's got that down. And now with the addition of Andy coming in, and with V-bracing, we can almost say now, we think we're now a major player in that area of the best sounding guitar. So what is V-bracing? All right, so V-bracing is a whole different thought of how a guitar goes together. When guitars are put together and they're designed, there's always this compromise between strength and flexibility. And you can't have both. If you're on a teeter-totter, you're either up or you're down. It's hard to be balanced right in the middle. You really can't do it. So what you want out of a guitar is volume. You want to be able to hear it. But you also want the note to sustain as long as it possibly can. Okay, this is hard. Because if I overbrace the guitar and I build it too strong, it just wants to die. So, let's talk about this. Now, we're just going to be taking this in steps, okay? So if you think about a Les Paul, who's seen Spinal Tap? You probably know where I'm going, and it's not to 11. But remember when he showed the Les Paul, and he goes, listen to that. You can hear it sustaining. Oh, come back in a half hour. Oh, it's still sustaining, right? That's because it's solid. And that strength that runs down the center of that guitar allows that guitar to sustain. Now, we're going to go to the other side of the equation here, and I want you to think about the banjo. Don't think too hard. Do we have any banjo players? Okay, I'll talk slower. Wow. Okay. You have a drum head with strings. You think that's loud? Darn right it's loud. But there's no sustain. You get the note, and it's done. So, okay, so this is that paradox that we have. I need strength for sustain, but I need flexibility for volume. So what Andy had figured out, and I'm not going to go through the whole story, aren't you glad? Who said yes? Oh my God, who said yes? No, Laura and I are like that now. Yeah. You threw off my thing here. All right. So what we got going is we have something called a V brace. So let's talk about a V brace. You're used to X bracing guitars. This is a V. So what happens is that the bracing runs like this. Now, I'm sorry whoever said yes, I've got to dig into this, okay? The top of the guitar is weak without bracing. You build a top and you cut a hole in it. That, again, decreases the strength of the top. So with X bracing, what you had was you had these quadrants to help hold everything together, but the top then became not as flexible. So in all of these different things that Andy saw and witnessed, which I'm not going to go into now, he figured out that if he built the V here, that he gave the guitar strength right down the center line. So you hit a note, and I now have the strength for sustain. Problem solved. Problem 1 solved. Now we got problem 2. Problem 2 is the volume, right? So how do we make the thing flexible? Well, because we were able to build strength right down the center line, this portion of the guitar now can become more flexible. So it's not as heavily braced. It's braced exactly the way it's supposed to be in order to give the guitar volume. All right? So now we've got strength and we have flexibility. All right? So for those of you that know the guitar fretboard a lot, what Andy wanted to do was he wanted to make every single note on the fretboard have power, have sustain, and be balanced. This is tough. And also remember, this wasn't like something that he came up with overnight about 6 months ago and decided to build. This has been like a 7-8 year project. So the first of all, is that coming through the PA?
Yeah.
Right. The weakest note on the fretboard is the E note for the 9th fret of the G string. That note right there. That's the weakest note on the fretboard. If I play this on a V-brace guitar, this is what you get. Now, I'm sorry, folks, a guitar is not supposed to do that. A guitar is supposed to be...
Ouch.
That. Oh, I'm sorry. It's mine.
That was mine.
Yeah. I don't know about any of you, but when I first heard that, that was my first portion of just being absolutely blown away. Well-built piano, the notes will be balanced and equal. So you hit that great thing, that bum-bum, doo-doo, and they need to be equal. So you've got a guitar that now will sustain. Sorry. Still going. I didn't have to hit it hard. All I had to do was hit it. Okay? So you have amazing sustain. So you're like, so what? That's huge. All right? You also have volume. Now, when I say that you have volume, what do I mean by, so what do we mean by that, as Soupy Sales would say? What do we mean by that? What we mean is that somehow in the engineering and the design of this, the volume of a guitar becomes like a line array of a PA. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you know those speakers, if you've been to a concert, they hang them on the sides and they do this. Those are called line arrays. And for those of you that are more my age, you remember the days of going to concerts and you had the great big subs and the great big speakers and they were all around. And these line arrays, they just get the sound out to you. And you don't know how they work, and it doesn't matter. It sounds great. And what ends up happening is that the volume that is 3 feet away is the same as the volume that's 6 feet away, and is the same as the volume that's 12 feet away. So if I play this chord here, I turned the mic off. The projection of the guitar is amazing. All right, now, to turn the mic back on. So Andy got all this stuff figured out with the strength and the flexibility. Then a funny thing happened. He was playing the guitar and he realized something. This was not part of the overall plan. But, there's something called intonation. So I'm going to get into the intonation discussion right now, because this is the big thing that's setting the forums on fire. And the big thing that's setting the forums on fire is you can't change intonation by changing braces. It just doesn't work. I know darn well everything there is to know about guitars, and I know that the only way to change intonation is by compensating. Well, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but you're wrong. Why are you wrong? Because what sets off intonation issues isn't only that. We already had the compensation part figured out. The problem is that if you get ghost notes and then they interfere, it's noise. So, Rich, what are you saying? This is what I'm going to say. And we're going to do this together. I want you to pretend that I just played the most rounding rendition of the Pink Panther you had ever heard, and you are going to do what? Come on, come on, come on, come on! That's white noise. Now, we're going to do this. Everybody do this. Same noise. Same sound, same harmonic frequency, but that's order. That's musical. What the bracing ended up doing was it stopped the disorder and it put the notes in order. The top is moving in order. This is what I want you to think about. This is really interesting, and I'd love to say that I came up with it on my own. You play a guitar, you don't play the wood, you play the string. When you hit a string and it's tuned a certain way and you put your finger on the fretboard at a certain place, it makes a note. The note then has to transfer to the guitar has to vibrate, which creates energy, which makes the sound. We'll shorten it to that. So the guitar becomes a translator of what your finger told the string to do. I know I'm getting deep here, guys. And I'm sorry to use the word guys, folks. But this is what's going on. This is the kind of thought process that we have when we're going through all these things, is what's going on inside this instrument? And how can we make it translate the notes that we want to play and have it sound correct? Anybody in here a very, very good Spanish teacher or Spanish speaker? Good. My daughter is a Spanish professor. I said, Becca, her name's Rebecca, I call her Becca. Becca, if I say buenos dias, who knows what buenos dias means? Shout out.
Good day.
Who said good day? Most people say good morning. You go, buenos dias. Good morning, senor. Buenos dias. But it means good day. So the translation is incorrect. And it's not incorrect, it's like you're only getting half of the thing. Okay, so I can have a good morning, but I can't necessarily have a good afternoon. Well, no, I said good day. No, you said good morning. That's the translation. By doing the bracing this way, we were able to create a whole, the guitar now is translating what you're really trying to get across. So, what do we mean by that? We mean this. Okay, guitar players, and you know who you are. You got a great guitar, and you got a great tuner. And you tune your guitar to, and you play an E chord, and you're good. And then you do what? You play a D chord, and what do you have to do? Ever so slightly change that one, and ever so slightly change that one. Because of the pressure on the strings and stuff. Now, you don't. It's totally in tune. There's your E. Here's your D. All right. The second test, a G chord. This is the fun one. If you go to page 7 of the Mel Bay primer, they show you what a G chord is. You tune your guitar, and it's a G chord. And here it is. Those are the notes. G, B, D, G, D, B. All right. But here's the problem, though. You tuned your guitar, and it doesn't sound like that. The B notes become wavy. They wave ever so slight. So what do we do as good guitar players? We mute them. It's subconscious, but we mute them. And sometimes we'll take our pinky and we'll turn that B note into a D note. And this becomes our G chord. And sometimes you can hear that. I hate to tell you this, but that's not a G chord. That's a G5. But it's the way that we fixed it. And it was totally subconscious. But we fixed it. But now you've got a G chord back. Those notes and that note, they're all there now. So now I can do something like a... where I used to have to go... I never could get that in there. All right. Here's another interesting one. What I love about guitar is the fact, and why I just adore playing the guitar. It's just so fun for me and it's so fulfilling. And I'm not even that good, but it's just still really, you don't have to be great for it to be fun, right? Is that to play open fretted notes along with fretted notes, things like, so I've got an open, and then I'm clear up to a 7th fret and a 9th fret. There's not a sour note. I can even go up here. I can even do a 4.5 octave stretch, and I got to look to make sure I'm in the right place. I can add that high G sharp. No wave. Pretty cool. So that's what V-brace does. And so, as I said earlier, and I'm going to repeat it now, I'm blessed enough to have quite a few guitars in my collection. I have close to 50 now. And each one of them is like a kid. And it's funny, because my wife said, the other guitar player in my band passed away recently. He was 58 years old, passed away. And very suddenly. And so I went over to his house, and we're cataloging his guitars, and we're deciding what we're going to do with them. And I'm working with his wife really closely on doing that. And I got home, and my wife said, you need to catalog your guitars while you're alive. Not that I'm planning on taking you out, but, I need to know, about all these guitars, because every single one of my guitars has a story. I can tell you where it came from, I can tell you who made it, I can tell you how I got it, and I have 2 daughters and a son, and and this one goes to Gabe because I played it at his wedding. This one goes to Rebecca because of this. This one goes to Rachel because I wrote her song on it. She has to have the guitar, and blah 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 blah. So why am I saying all this stuff? What I'm saying is that I showed you how great a V-brace is, but that doesn't mean you get rid of all your guitars and run to do this. This is a new voice in your collection. And it does things that other guitars don't do. I own I'm a car guy too. I own a 2010 Dodge Challenger, SRT8, 6-speed manual. Cool car. I mean, what a cool car. And it's purple, yes. Because if it's a Challenger and it's an SRT8, it has to be purple. And they make them in 2017 and 18. I'm keeping my 2010. Before my 2010 Cali, I had a C6 Corvette. C7s came out. I still like my C6. Okay? So you love your guitars for what they are. Here's the next step. Okay? Here's the next step to do. So what are we doing? So what's this guitar that I'm holding right here? This is called the Builder's Edition. We call it the Director's Cut. Andy wanted to put together a guitar that he said, if I was building a guitar for myself and I wanted to keep it at a so-and-so price level, this is what I would do. I think I would do a satin finish, and it's a silent satin finish because Andy does a lot of recording, and he sweats when he plays, and he wanted a guitar that wouldn't squeak when he got sweaty. So this finish, you can't hear anything, okay? So it's silent. So it's a whole new thing for that. Koa back and sides, a torrefied spruce top, and a really cool inlay that he likes. And then this cutaway is a little bit different on this guitar. On this guitar, the cutaway actually has like our armrest here, it has like an armrest here. And the idea here is that now that we've got notes that are playable and discernible, so if I play all the way up here, oh, is this on? It's coming through, right? Right? See, these are usable notes now. They're not doing that. They're ringing out and they're sustaining. But I can hit those notes and my thumb is behind the neck. And so for you folks in the cheap seats, see, we're back here. So I can reach here. And I can leave my thumb back here and I can do all those, I'm sorry. Okay? Except for that last one. So that's what that's all about. So that's the Builder's Edition. Okay, this is part of our. It's not a limited. We're going to be making them. Okay. One of the other guitars that we came out with, 2 of the other guitars we did the V bracing in is the 914 CE and the K24 CE, and the V bracing is only in grand auditoriums, by the way. Just I want to make sure that we all understand that. It's only in a guitar that ends in a 4, and it's only these 3.